Seems like that time.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Dick Wingate from Dev Advisors. We provide consulting services to companies and content owners in the digital entertainment ecosystem, from business development, content licensing, market intelligence, and investment strategy. I'm very pleased to have two fine panelists today that I've had the pleasure to know for a little bit. To my far right is Richard Averitt, who's the CEO of Digital ReLab from Charlottesville, Virginia, and they bill themselves as the content intelligence company. You'll find out what that means, and their open MDS platform enables creators to intelligently manage, mine, market, and monetize their media. A lot of M's. Their clients include the Bob Dylan organization, Bob Dylan's management company, Billy Joel, and the New York Philharmonic. To my immediate right, Scott Cherkin, who is the EVP and of product and business development for Complex Networks. Complex Networks is a joint venture of Verizon and Hearst, two big media companies, and it's a global lifestyle brand and media company that has rapidly grown to be one of the most influential voices in popular culture today. They generate over 800 million video views a month across their various digital channels, and they're a top 10 publisher in the US when it comes to social engagement on platforms like Facebook and YouTube. So now you know who they are, who we are. The topic today is rediscovering music. We're going to broaden it just a little bit to be more about rediscovering media, not just music. But because it is a music, the music notes vertical here, just a couple of data points before we start the conversation. The overall consumption of music went up last year almost 6% over the year before. That is a combination of streaming, downloads, physical purchases, etc. To the first significant consumption of music year over year in over 15 years. So the music industry is rebounding, primarily thanks to streaming. And of the music consumption, over 50% of it is are titles that are considered catalog, which means they're older than 3 years. And in video, it's even as high as 60%. So we are in this now expanding universe of explosion of media assets, music, video, documents, images, etc. I'm going to start with Scott and ask what are the biggest challenges in managing and exploiting this massive amount of content that not only you're providing, but is being provided by users.
Yeah, it's an amazing time in media right now with the exploding number of platforms that we all need to be great at, and that means not just managing a website, but managing, for us as a Snapchat Discover channel, Facebook Live and Facebook Newsfeed, which those videos are much different than what works for us in YouTube, and all those assets get natively uploaded. And so if you think back to what even the digital media business was 2 or 3 years ago, most of our effort was building our CMS to manage our content library. And we went through a pretty significant dev effort we have a proprietary CMS. And so within that, we built this image library, which we brought to market, and great design. Our editors and the people who use the CMS every day love it, and yet now it's only solving for probably 20% of our content production because so much is being produced in unique ways for unique platforms. And those assets what happens is you build these workflows for the unique platforms, and they're kind of siloed. Our 10-person Snapchat Discover team is working independently of the people that are recutting and reformatting our YouTube videos to work well in Facebook newsfeed, and those are bespoke assets now. They're all kind of, there might be a same theme of the YouTube video, but so it's kind of a derivative work, but we're not really getting the efficiency of taking what works for the Facebook newsfeed and putting it back in Snapchat or vice versa, or making Snapchat assets available for our mobile web experience. And so there's just an explosion of content and sort of assets that are being under leveraged, and it's a real challenge for us.
Richard, I know that your company is, built around the concept of trying to find the threads between all these various types of media. Metadata is critical to that. Tell us how that works.
Yeah, thanks so much. And the thing that Scott was talking about is exactly why we exist. It's the thing we hear from every client, which is that today we've evolved to a totally new landscape. From the mid '80s to the mid-aughts, we were sort of focused on enterprise content management. It's all of the the Documentums and the big major BPM and ECM systems. Then we had this blip, a period of sort of a 2005 to 2015 or so, which was really focused on the WebDAMs and Cantos and CatDV and all the MAMs and DAMs systems. Again, all really built around this sort of process of engagement. How do we move this new rich media, get it where we want to go, and create some workflow around it? And now all of a sudden we have a different problem. We no longer have a sort of problem about moving our content. We have a problem knowing what to move, where, when, and how. It's a data problem, really. And so we sort of flipped the thing inside out and said, what if you built a system, we describe it as open MDS, open media, open data, open storage.
Yeah.
It says we want to be able to put any digital file type, everything from a license document and a producer agreement to STEM files and WAV files and MP3s into a system that then automates the intelligence around them, right? That uses AI tools and computer vision tools and business process tools to help us understand how is this content relevant in our overall ecosystem? What are the data insights? So I would argue that we've sort of now moved into this area where we really need systems of understanding, and it's the the Hadoops and the NoSQLs and the computer vision and the AI. All of that stuff is driving the insights that we need to tell us what's happening across our business ecosystem with our data, and where might we, or content, and where might we use it next?
Yeah. So Scott, you have probably content in various cloud services,
Yep.
in local local servers, et cetera. And how much time is wasted searching for content in these various silos? I mean, everybody in this audience probably spends a lot of time, wastes a lot of time trying to find, you're looking for a particular photo because it's someone's birthday on Facebook, but you can't remember whether it's in your iCloud or in your Dropbox or on your phone or on your laptop or whatever, right? That's our own personal issues, but it's just logarithmically much more difficult when you're talking about millions of pieces of content.
Yeah, well, it's hard to know, I haven't quantified how much time we lose in the discovery, but that's the reason we kicked off what probably was a 6-month development effort to build a image library, because we're probably going to write about Drake again, and we should have a folder for Drake pictures. And
Right.
we're going to write about Air Jordans again, and so we should make that easy. Than having to go find the article and save it again to your computer and reference the file again. There's surely, I know that our Snapchat guys are using Google Docs. I know that our designers are storing stuff locally and they're using separate Google Docs.
Right.
It's just not connected.
Right.
And the CMS efficiency is I haven't really figured out. We built a workflow for the unique challenge we have, and now we go back and say, oh my God, look at all of this inefficiency, and we try to put a workflow on top of it. There's a never-ending need to be publishing more content, and engaging users, and I think there probably is a lot of time that we could win back.
I'm going to read a quote. This is from Bob Dylan's manager, Jeff Rosen. He was quoted as saying in Forbes, the Starchive platform, which is Richard's platform, has been vital for us to capitalize on decades of Dylan's work from our archives. So tell the audience, what was the genesis of that relationship, and what do you provide for them specifically?
Yeah, we were really blessed. I mean, really it was a personal relationship, as most first things in business are. So Jim Fischel on our team is a record executive for many years. He was good friends with Jeff Rosen. He took our founder, Peter Agelasto, to meet Jeff at the very early stages of the company and convinced Jeff to allow him to prove out the ideas for this system against the giant spaghetti ball of assets and opportunity that was the Dylan archive over 50 years. So we're 4 years into that project. I'd say, well, I guess I should ask Jeff, but I think we're 85% or so of the way through all of Dylan's materials. But for the very first time, Jeff Rosen, who has worked for 30 years with this material, knows it more intimately than really anybody in the world, maybe even Bob in some ways, since he never looks back, right? Right. Jeff will tell you that he is constantly finding content he didn't know about, either hasn't ever seen or hadn't seen in so long he had forgotten about. And the metadata threads are establishing these new relationships, right? Maybe you find that there's a thread along a particular theme, maybe it's gospel, or maybe it's a particular period, and that leads to the new bootlegs, the new basement tapes, the new documentary opportunities. So really it's the creative platform for Jeff and the Bob Dylan Music Company to drive new revenue and new opportunity.
Well, let's talk about music a little more specifically. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the discovery of catalog music has become a significant driver of revenue in the streaming, particularly in the streaming business, because people have all-you-can-eat plans and they are willing to take a shot at listening to something in the past they would have never downloaded it or purchased it. So what are some of the discovery, what are some of the things that moving forward will help provide even more discovery? Things like stems, for instance, and that are today's generation wants to play with the music. They don't want to just listen to it. They want to recreate it, reimagine it. And so do you think that things like stems or VR and AR are going to add to the discovery process?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I mean, if you look at the exhibit areas here, there are dozens of companies working in sort of derivative formats, new opportunities to publish content, and also new analytics and intelligence processes that will tell us more about the content and how it's being received and shared and liked and viewed and all of the things that are happening in the social graph. And so I think that what you need is an environment where you can reimagine what a piece of media is, because as our founder Peter likes to say, if you have an hour-long video, it's also 100,000 still frames, it's also an audio track, it's also an unlimited number of clips and configurations of that same content to become GIFs, to become all the new things that are the ways in which we monetize attention and generate opportunity for our business. And most of the platforms don't give you that level of flexibility. So I think that's really critical. I'd love to hear what Scott thinks.
Yeah, if you can bring to market, if you can help publishers, artists mine old content. I mean, when we go to our video editors, and we would love to do a list of like the top 10 moments of a concert or a tour. Lists are tremendously popular in YouTube, and I can give you 20 channels that are just killing it with audience engagement in YouTube with lists. And what's really hard is you can't go and say, here's the last 10 years, find the moments that are worthy of a list. And so what needs to happen is what happens right now in sort of the promo area. When we have a new video, we get cuts so that we can make a sizzle reel or trailer. We get the editor or the people who produce the video say, oh, these are the hot moments you're going to want to cut for your sizzle. Mm-hmm. We need to do that indexing for tours and concerts, because you can't give your video editor just have to go watch 30 hours of video. Yeah. It's just not practical with the amount of sort of,
Right.
at least in our kind of publishing business, when we're putting up 2.5 hours of video every day, and it's just an unbelievable amount of work. No one's got the time to just sit through all that.
Well, I mean, I don't mean to suggest that the intelligence systems are so good today that they can watch an hour-long video and identify all of the things that are relevant in it for you. I mean, there is no replacement still today for the sort of human instinct and knowledge around those things. However, in our lifetime, certainly, and probably much sooner than later, those systems will continue to improve, and we're going to have tools that will allow us to drop in a video or an audio track and identify every word along the timeline, every object, every individual, every event. And then the question is, what do you do with that information? Like across a vast catalog, how do you take that knowledge that's been created and relate it to other things for new opportunities and understandings? And that's really what we're talking about. And so you need to be thinking about systems that are designed to accept all of this new data all the time, so the data record for any object is constantly growing, and systems that allow you to then plug in new intelligence tools and analysis tools that are going to give you that data. And our existing systems really don't do that.
Yeah, I think we're playlisting has become the new radio for all intents and purposes. And as far as the record companies are concerned, they now promote the creators of the top playlists the way they, as with as much effort as they promote the top radio stations, because they have that much influence in the market. And so we have that's clearly the human part of discovery, and Apple's weekly discovery playlist has become extremely popular. But as we go forward, and these playlisters are making decisions, they're making decisions based on musical instinct, but oftentimes, and as we go forward, there's going to be more and more need to find the connections between pieces of music and pieces of media in general that will be available through metadata and through systems that are being developed, like Starchive and others. So. Yeah. I think we're living in this extreme period of growth that's going to include both the human and the machine-based intelligence to help expose great content, great music, and other media that's been sitting there for a long time. I see we're down to the last minute here. Any closing thoughts from either of you?
This is a really interesting topic, I think, especially this layer of artificial intelligence, and we're working on some projects right now to help identify content in the real world, actual things in the real world, and bring it back for utility-driven apps. And we're on the cusp of some amazing innovations, and so the ability to let the creative people be creative and less content operations, which is not why they got into this business, the better off we're going to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I would say this, I think it's actually, it's daunting, but it's also a really exciting time. And I think one of the mistakes that many companies make is they're overwhelmed by what it takes to go back and sort of re-ingest, reprocess, re-go through all of this legacy content. And so don't get locked into that idea, because really what happens is the longer you keep that mentality, you're just piling on to the problem. And I will say there is no substitute for some of the human work that goes into that. There's no way around it. But for content that's created today, that's born digital, and that we can get ahead of, there are all sorts of things you can do to augment the data that is attached to that content in real time and relate it in ways that makes it accessible, so that you're not adding to this pile of legacy stuff that's going to take some real human effort to fix. So it's, don't think about legacy as things created like Dylan. That's a true legacy project, but legacy is really the stuff that you created yesterday. Right? And so you want to get ahead of that problem now, and begin solving for tomorrow, such that you don't create additional workload for yourself in the future.
That's a great way to finish up. Thank you all for coming to the panel, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.